Strong winds reaching China from Tropical Storm Fengshen on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for October 21st. Well, once again, it is a busy tropical scene out there right now, with several areas of interest dispersed across several different basins. Of course, the Atlantic is on edge right now with an area of interest, a high chance of development now in the eastern to central Caribbean Sea, could go on to affect the Greater Antilles, 4 systems in the south across the Indian Ocean, and of course Tropical Storm Fengshen in the Western Pacific. It's day 143 of hurricane season. M10 is our designation for Invest 98L. There it is, with a 70% chance according to our latest estimates, and it could become a significant hurricane, in fact, if it does strengthen and possibly reach the island of Hispaniola. In the Eastern Pacific, there's 2 areas of interest, one out towards the west there, which is struggling now very much so, and out towards the east, still a 40% chance for an up-and-coming system that we'll start to see on the map in the coming days. Well, in the Western Pacific, we're tracking Fengshen, but models have been picking up on another system that could develop just off the coast of Taiwan. It has been invested, and a low chance being given on that one right now. Fengshen itself back to tropical storm status after it lost its circulation yesterday and the previous day. Warnings are still in effect. In the North Indian Ocean, there are 2 areas of interest active right now. The one in the Bay of Bengal still has the higher chance of development, albeit still at 40%, and that one is now much closer to the coast of India, so it will have much less time and space, at the very least, to develop. Cyclone Chenge is still looking pretty good. As a matter of fact, JTWC, I believe, went with 70 miles per hour. We're staying at 60 right now. The storm has a large wind field on its southern side, and we have another area of interest out east near Indonesia, no longer affecting the land areas there. It's now just started to pull away enough. And in the South Pacific, it's looking pretty quiet here at this point. A few areas of cloudiness affecting those islands, and looks like a significant front through the southern part of Australia. Well, let's check in on Tropical Storm Fengshen right now. We're happy to call it one now. 50 mile per hour winds, pressure 992 millibars, 17.4 north, 113.1 degrees east. Signal 3 warnings in effect for Hong Kong and Macau, and blue typhoon warnings in effect from Shenzhen westwards through the Leetsu Peninsula to the border with Vietnam, and for the island of Hainan. It is 322 kilometers from Wanning on the island of Hainan, 392 from Sanya, 524 from Cang Ngai in Vietnam, 544 from Da Nang, and 1015 from Ho Chi Minh City. The latest JTWC forecast cone now has the storm peaking at what they're currently putting it at, which is 60 miles per hour, and weakening just to a depression by the time it gets to the coast, just about. JMA is forecasting something relatively similar, although I think it actually has a bit of strengthening on that forecast cone there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you're always in touch with the latest tropical cyclone updates, as well as following us on social media, and you can also join our Discord server for tropical weather chat at any time on discord.gg/force13. Well, in this new format, I'm going to have to get used to being interrupted by myself there as we start to take a look at the satellite imagery. This is a look on the infrared channel Himawari 9, looking at Fengshen right now, blowing up significant amounts of convection in 2 distinct areas there on the left and right hand side of where the perceived center would appear to be. Still not fully sure whether it actually has a center right now, but we're giving it the benefit of the doubt. ASCAP missed, unfortunately, earlier. Now looking at the water vapor imagery, and it looks like we'll next move on to some more infrared channels. The southwestern side looking very bare indeed. That is always going to be the weak point of this system. The satellite wind estimates are now suggesting that the wind field has equalized quite considerably in the last 24 hours, although the wind field isn't particularly large, at least the strongest winds from the storm. Now, of course, strong winds could be affecting the coast of China, Hong Kong and Macau right now, and here's the radar out of Hong Kong showing that the rain is mostly staying at bay, but you can see the banding from the storm just offshore, some of those little islands also being impacted there, and a little bit of rain inland. Now looking at Cyclone Chenge there in the southwest Indian Ocean, can you believe it is the 4th tropical storm of the southwest Indian Ocean cyclone season, and it is still only October. To give you an idea, most times only the first storm is forming now, if not later. And this storm is the best looking of them all so far out of those 4. Certainly interesting how the JTWC reckons it may have got near hurricane equivalent status. I'm not really quite as impressed with the storm there. It is fighting off some wind shear. It will slowly fall apart, but it has performed much better than expected. That much is for sure. And that means that it may be able to trawl a little bit further towards the Seychelles and could actually deliver a more significant impact than what we were expecting. Here's Invest 98L in the Atlantic. It's still got a lot of work to do, especially when you look at the western side, looking very bare right now. 1 or 2 little tufts of convection blowing up in those later images. And of course, towards the south there, over those land areas of Venezuela and now into Colombia as well, really getting some significant thunderstorms down there right now. The system itself, though, looks like we're starting to see a very slow, gradual tightening of that rotation, and I think it's decent to give it a high chance of development, 70%. I think National Hurricane Center may have already gone a bit higher. Looking a little bit out east there, towards the Lesser Antilles at some radar returns, you just saw the very edge of its influence. This is Invest 93B, the 40% area of interest, which is now just off the coast of Sri Lanka. It's pivoted very significantly far towards the west. Will it pick back up and move back towards the north? Because if it doesn't, it probably won't form. Throwing up some significant convection in those latest frames after being absent until that point. And this is Invest 95S, the one that's down near Indonesia, and it's starting to pull away from the islands and is still blowing up massive amounts of convection, probably the highest amount of any of the storms that we're tracking today. Slowly moving southwards, doesn't have a circulation, struggling, but I think eventually it will have a chance as it parades across large parts of the South Indian Ocean. This is Invest 92A, which is still an interesting system. Chances are down to 20%, but some models are still holding on to the chance that it develops way down the line, maybe ending up day 7, 8, much further towards the west in the Arabian Sea. I am skeptical to say the least because sea surface temperatures are cold over there. And this is Invest 97W, the one that's been designated, the one that we've also put out a 20% chance for here off the coast of Taiwan. So it is actually a thing, and it could deliver some extensive enhanced rainfall amounts to the Taipei region and northern parts of Taiwan, although right now it doesn't look like it's doing very much. Wide shot of the Atlantic showing just how Invest 98L is shaping up in terms of its size. Actually looking pretty good there as we look at this geocolor imagery. Not much else going on in the Atlantic though, so it's just that system really that we're looking at. Eastern Pacific, you can see 2 ghosts of systems, maybe even 3 across the intertropical convergence zone there. Along the right hand side, in sort of the middle right, is the one that we marked down to 10%, and the next one that we'll be tracking isn't yet active. And looking at the infrared imagery across the Arabian Sea, a wide shot of what's going on there, that Invest, and a few thunderstorms blowing up all across southern and western India. And a wide shot of the southwest Indian Ocean, the whole southern Indian Ocean there, showing that Chenge is a fairly big system. I was surprised to see just how far the wind field extended on the southern side. Pretty far, a few hundred miles. And in, maybe not a few hundred miles, but a couple. And in the South Pacific there, you can see not too much going on. 1 or 2 non-tropical systems active. Sea surface temperatures continue to look good across the places that matter in the Atlantic at this time of year. We're getting later on in the season now. The Caribbean is usually where it's at, possibly extending into the Gulf of Mexico. Temperatures 30 degrees plus in all of those areas, including where 98L is. Eastern Pacific also looking good off the coast of Mexico. Really good, in fact. So let's hope no systems end up there. The one that's the 40% is going to be moving out to sea most likely. Western Pacific still looking very good in all of those big areas of the ocean. 30 degrees plus in large parts of the Philippine Sea heading towards Guam. South China Sea looking decent still for Fengshen, around 28 degrees Celsius, may rise a little bit more before landfall. Bay of Bengal looking very good as well. A little bit cooler though where Invest 93B is, and as mentioned, the Arabian Sea really cools off the more Invest 92A travels westerly. It's actually a little bit below average over there. For Chenge as well, just a little bit south of a below average patch, but it should be doing okay. Parts of the Western Pacific subtropical and extratropical zones extremely hot right now. East China Sea in particular, 5 degrees above average. Eastern Pacific, still signs of the La Nina present. And the Atlantic, the areas that we're talking about there, Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean Sea, above average, around 3 degrees. Oceanic heat content is still looking good for large tracts of the Western Pacific, and don't forget, it is more than capable of producing a flurry of late season activity. It is far from over. In fact, this time of year can produce some of the strongest typhoons, and in the Atlantic it can produce some of the strongest hurricanes, of course, and certainly some of the most difficult ones to predict as well. But oceanic heat content is very high if 98L can just move a little bit further west than what it currently is doing. So what's the forecast? This is the GFS model then, looking out towards the next 5 days, and it's calling for the storm to swivel northeasterly, hurricane there, and now it's a landfall on the, I forget the name of that peninsula now, that sticks out there halfway across the island of Hispaniola, just about in Haitian territory there, then moving across the mountains into the Dominican Republic. That's really going to cause a big problem for the storm, actually. It stays quite close to land, and then real restructuring going on, which we'll pick up on in a second. Fengshen on the right hand side, moving inland into Vietnam, still a tropical storm according to the GFS, and then moving out towards, well, in fact, some of its energy looks like it might produce another system that we haven't yet marked. I need to mention that, but the GFS is quite keen for that system to develop in the Andaman Sea. You may just see me drawing on the left hand side there as well, the far left there, looking at 93B, briefly becoming a tropical storm. You couldn't quite see it before hitting India at the same time. That would be quite something. No other model support for that third system in between the two though. For Chenge, well, it starts to weaken and loses tropical cyclone status by the looks of things there with its wind field by the time we get to, I think that would be day 3 or 4, but it could be moving through some of the islands of the Seychelles, I think it is. In fact, it may even be Agalega with tropical storm force winds and also grazing the northern tip of Madagascar. And this is the rainfall expectations over the next 7 days, and something I really need to quantify on this. It's showing enormous rainfall amounts for that part of Vietnam right there, 52 inches. That is 1,300 millimeters. Now, it will only be that amount if that second system near Taiwan follows through, which is what the GFS is predicting on its forecast. A weak system, but that disturbance pretty much doubles the rainfall amount. Nonetheless, we're still looking at least half that, and that would be well over 500 millimeters or 600 millimeters of rainfall for parts of Vietnam. Also for northern Taiwan there as well. Well, in the longer range, a real mess 98L becomes because of that land interaction, and look at the extraordinary size that it reaches and possibly becomes a major hurricane in the process there as well. You may have just seen a little bit of red there. Certainly on that first phase, it is tropical, I would imagine anyway, becoming a major hurricane, an enormous one off to the northeast. And then possibly, that looks like it's post-tropical there when it's near Newfoundland, still trying to produce 115 mile per hour winds. Extraordinary. Bay of Bengal, that system still hinges upon the GFS being right, but it becomes a significant hurricane equivalent storm, weakens a bit before making landfall in Andhra Pradesh. And then that second system to the west there over the Arabian Sea, that's the one that we're still tracking right now, 92A, eventually develops, as alluded to this earlier, becoming a very large, weak tropical storm, struggling over those cold sea surface temperatures. Check out our store page for Force 13 related merch, as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request by you. Also, if you like our work, please check out our YouTube memberships. Check the join page on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/force13/join. So the fantasy range might be a bit of a letdown after the craziness of that Atlantic system, 98L, but here is what it is currently projecting right now. It's bringing out a Western Pacific storm, first developing east of Palau and actually moving eastwards at first, heading up towards Guam, possibly storm force winds, but let's say this is the 5th of November, it's very far out. And in the North Indian Ocean, another system forming there, in the Bay of Bengal, making landfall probably in Odisha by that point. So that would be potentially 3 systems in the Indian Ocean. In fact, 4 systems, counting that Arabian Sea system, if the one that we're currently tracking forms. It's very confusing now. Well, on this day, back in 1998, we had 2 significant storms active. Typhoon Babs, briefly, on our estimates, reached a Category 5 peak off the coast of the Philippines, and was still a strong Category 4 by this point as it was grazing the coast of the Bicol region and Catanduanes. Also, Hurricane Lester was active as a Category 2 at this point, and if you look carefully, you might see the beginnings of what might become Hurricane Mitch a few days down the line. Back to today then, and the next storm name in the Atlantic is Melissa. Obviously that's what everyone's looking out for right now. In the Eastern Pacific it's Sonia, and in the Central Pacific it's Lala. We're up to 86 storms for the year. That crept up, didn't it? We're quite close to the average now. In the Western Pacific, the next name now is Kalmegi, followed by Feng Wong. Yes, I brushed up on those names. And in the North Indian Ocean, it will be Mantha. That could be coming up pretty soon at some point. Which system will get it? In the Australian region, the next name is Fina. The Southwest Indian Ocean, Dudsai. And in the South Pacific, it's Ermil. That's all for tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.